today on the Clock Tips podcast. And so if we don't support this timing system, our body just kind of plays like a band where everybody is doing their own thing and it doesn't sound like beautiful music. Well, welcome to the Clock Tips podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Richardson. Thanks for joining us. On this podcast, I talk about time. Time when it comes to how long it will take to do things, how do we perceive it. But one type of time that I'm especially interested in are circadian rhythms, or the type of time that our body keeps internally. Circadian rhythms are rhythms in our body that are around 24 hours. And these rhythms are responsible for behaviors that occur at one part of the 24-hour day-night cycle and then stop and repeat again. This whole idea of a rhythm or a cycle is something that happens in our body in many different ways. And why we should understand that it happens is that think about any given body function that you have. Breathing, for example. Are you always taking a breath inward? No, you take one outward. That's an example of a cycle. Look at your heartbeat. When it beats, it goes ba-dum, ba-dum, right? This means you have a cycle, an on and off, a this and a that type of thing going on. Circadian rhythms are actually the daily timing system of turning certain things on or ramping them up and then turn them off or ramping them down. A common example that everyone might be familiar with is the sleep-wake cycle. So how do we know that this one is a cycle or a rhythm or controlled by rhythms? Well, around the same time every night, you might feel sleepy, and around a similar time in the morning, you get the urge to wake up. Other things that are controlled by circadian rhythms include food intake, when you should eat and when you shouldn't eat. Your body's temperature changes throughout the day. Your hormones. So you have different hormones in your body that need to be active at different times of the day in order to help different processes in your body. For example, the time of day when melatonin is active is in the night, when you need to sleep, and it becomes much less active or really low in the morning. Other hormones, some of which are involved in metabolism, such as insulin, vary throughout the day. For example, your insulin is higher during the day when you should be eating, but not as much at nighttime. All right, so how exactly does this rhythm work? Does your body actually have a clock inside that tick-tock every day? Well, to put it briefly and simply, your body has lots of different types of cells. And many cells have a time scale on which they perform different activities, like producing RNA and proteins from the types of genes that are in the cells. So basically, the DNA that you have, there's a timing mechanism associated with the products that DNA can make. And when it comes to the clock system, this timing mechanism is on a scale of approximately 24 hours. There's this coordinated effort by your body to produce different RNA and proteins that happen close to 24 hours. Now, notice I've said it's close to 24 hours, which is important to know because your body actually needs to be 24 hours precisely in order to coordinate all these different rhythmic functions that needs to happen every day throughout your body. So in order for this coordination to happen, there are cues from your environment that tells the brain that here's exactly 24 hours. This is what that looks like. And it helps the internal clock system to adjust and become exactly 24 hours. One of the strongest cues that our body receives is information from the day-night cycle. So when the sun comes up and goes down, that is exactly 24 hours every day. This information about light and dark enters our eyes and goes to our brain to a couple different areas, one of which is known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's one of the main clock regions of the brain. And it basically tells those cells that already have a rhythm close to 24 hours, Here is the exact 24-hour rhythm of our planet. Now, what the brain does with this information is that every day it double checks what is the exact 24-hour day, and it adjusts the body to ensure that inside your body is doing the right thing. Now, light is the strongest way that this happens. It's not the only way. So, for example, if someone has breakfast and lunch and dinner at the same time every day, for example, that has also been shown to be a strong aligning cue for your body to know when it's 24 hours. So here's the problem. When we don't have the consistent information from the day-night cycle or some other cue like eating times for when our food is precisely available, our body gets a little confused about exactly what 24 hours is. And you might say, is it that easy to mess it up? Actually, yes, it is. So for example, during the night, when it's dark outside, if you have the lights on, especially if it's on for an extended amount of time, and the time that you should go to sleep, you're still up, the brain will be a little confused and think, okay, isn't it supposed to be dark, but it's light right now? So it might start to readapt in some different type of a way. The bigger problem is if there's no clear cycle, because the time you're exposed to light and dark is so different than the natural day-night cycle, your circadian rhythms cannot adapt appropriately every day. So what's the big deal with that? If you don't have internal coordination of your circadian rhythms to be exactly 24 hours, the rhythms throughout your body, the ones that control the hormones or your sleep-wake cycle or metabolism or these different functions, they kind of start to do their own thing. And if you think about timing needs to be precise for things to coordinate, especially if you have multiple things going on. And just if you think about it, your body has a lot of things going on. And so if you don't have this coordination system by the external day-night cycle, what happens is that things start to miss each other in your body. So for example, you eat something, and let's say the timing of when those hormones and enzymes are supposed to come in to help to digest it is not well coordinated because your circadian system isn't well tuned at the moment. That means that you might not digest that food well, or it might be delayed, and then you might not get the nutrients you need at the right time, and it just might not be efficient anymore. There could be so many different reasons that researchers are still trying to figure out. But we probably just know we don't feel that great. Sleep is one of those things too, that if we don't sleep when we're supposed to, when our circadian clock says go to sleep, we're really fighting against the system that is trying to help us maintain a healthy internal balance. Even more, disrupted circadian rhythms are found to be linked with many health issues. So obesity, cardiovascular issues, hormonal imbalances, sleep disorders, poor focus and memory problems, and the list goes on and on. Because again, your body has many functions that are on this timing system, and your body uses this timing system because nothing needs to be happening all the time. You don't need to swallow all the time. You don't need to have your eyes open all the time. You don't need to be up and walking all the time. You have a time when you're walking and a time when you're not. Even the way you move with your legs, it has a rhythm to it. And so if we don't support this timing system, our body just kind of plays like a band where everybody is doing their own thing and it doesn't sound like beautiful music. So my advice is this. 1, understand what your circadian rhythms are. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're on the right track. And 2, work with your environment in order to support that alignment, that coordination, that input that you need from the environment in order to help your internal circadian rhythms become well coordinated and work together to help your body do what it's supposed to do. Tune in to future episodes where we'll talk more about some of the different functions that are controlled by circadian rhythms, as well as different types of disruptions that may occur and what you can do in order to improve your circadian rhythm balance. Thanks for joining us today. Please visit our website at clocktips.com for more information about this podcast, how to join our ongoing research study, and more resources to help you improve your time intuition, sleep, and productivity. If you found this information helpful or interesting, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others and join the discussion on our social media platforms under the handle @myclocktips. Until next time, take care of yourself.